Greetings, listeners. On this episode of The Future is Bright, we're diving into the hottest corner of the legal market, law firm capital, MSO deals, and AI native firms. Trish Rich and Lucian Pera are back in the trenches with us to unpack what's actually happening behind the headlines. From regulators trying to dam the river of capital to investors racing to build the next generation of law firms. Enjoy. Welcome, everyone, to the Future is Bright podcast. My name is Chris Batts, and joined by my co-host, Howard Rosenberg. Howard and I are at the center of law firm talent and strategic growth here in New York City. Howard is a partner and the head of talent intelligence and acquisitions at Barretts & Brunell, and I advise and facilitate law firm mergers, PE investments, and growth strategies at Columbus Street. And today, we have two very exciting guests, both Trish Rich and Lucian Pera of Holland & Knight and Adams Reese. Trish and Lucian, welcome to the show again.
Thank you so much.
Great to be with you.
So Howard and I's aim is to bring you both on. This is the first time we've had four people together on a show, and we're very excited to have you both because you guys are in the thick of it with everything that's going on with kind of the evolution of the legal industry market with law firms and capital and AI and regulators. And so our goal was, let's bring them on at 6-month mark and really kind of hear from you in the trenches, what's going on. And, you know, one way we can kind of maybe start this conversation is the pace of conversations with your clients. Is it increasing? Have we just reached a fever pitch as opposed to 6 months or a year ago?
Lucian, it is increasing. I think it's fair to say that I think I can speak for us both to say when I say that our practices have just never been busier. I'm lucky enough to have like a really significant, group here at Holland & Knight working with me. I don't know how Lucian's holding up. Like, I worry about him all the time. I'm like, is my friend getting enough sleep? We're hopping. Pace is absolutely picking up. We're seeing more and more interest. The regulatory environment is shifting, but not really in ways that are dampening both, development and innovation, but also interest. So, yeah, and just to put some numbers on it, my team closed 6 deals last year in 2025. In 2026 so far, I think we've done 15. We did, 6 in May. We've already closed 2 in June, and it's June 3rd. So, just to put some numbers around it, like that's kind of the pace that we're seeing.
And just to clarify real quick, when you say deals, are we talking funded MSO ABS transactions with investors and buyers? Are we, help me explain that.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we're doing, effectively 2 really, basic kinds of things right now, which are investors taking stakes in the back offices of law firms, number 1, and number 2, technology firms standing native AI law firms up. And so when I say that we're like, and those are usually going to be backed by investors as well. So when I use that language, what I'm talking about is like closing contracts in those 2 spaces.
And Trish, as the volume increases, is the value also increasing of a typical deal?
I don't know the answer to that. I think it probably is for the time being. But investors are looking at new areas, right? I mean, it's been all PI all the time, almost. That is not quite as true anymore. I'm also seeing, I'm sure Trish is seeing this too, but I'm seeing other issues arise in the ongoing life of some of these new enterprises, where there are combinations, there are, potential sales, there are new ventures, there are, certainly there are continuing MSO platforms that are adding folks, right, over time. But it's just all different kinds of configurations. There's we got a financial services firm where they want to add a law firm to their suite of 4 or 5 companies. And so got that done. And then about a week later, I said, yeah, we got another law firm we want to add to it. And it's just so that I think the pace is increasing, the scope is increasing, the sophistication of people in how they might use these tools is increasing. I think more investors and lawyers are starting to understand that an MSO is just a tool. It's not a structure as such. I mean, in other words, it doesn't mean law firm, MSO, service agreement, investor. That is not what it means anymore. It means lots more than that. And I think people are starting to realize that.
Any other new developments you guys have seen since last year?
Well, I mean, the regulatory piece is increasingly in the forefront where, California's law concerning ABSs, the brand new Illinois law, which people lived in great fear of, but all these sorts of developments are giving investors and firms real angst. Some of it unwarranted, but some of it is actually market changing. I mean, the California law has changed a number of our clients' business plans, but it just changed them. It hadn't stopped them.
And what changes are you alluding to, Lucian? What kind of business plan changes?
ABSs, for example, have more trouble now than they did before that recent legislation passing last year in doing business in California, which is a huge market. And so there are workarounds for that. And so ABSs are either setting up law firms to do that without going through the ABS, or they are using other structures to find other ways to do that, to do their business. So, but I don't think it's really slowed the business in any meaningful way.
No, it feels like it's like trying to stop a waterfall by standing underneath it. It's just like, okay. And I want to echo and expand on like 2 points that Lucian made, which is like, number one, a really significant change we've seen from 2025 to 2026 is that we're really, the scope and breadth of law firms that are exploring this has really expanded. So it's bigger law firms. It's no longer just PI and other contingency fee firms. Like we're getting, I'm sure you're getting this too, Lucian, a slew of immigration firms, running to the table right now, given the immigration environment. But also corporate, traditional law firms that look like our firms, smaller versions of our firms, but our firms. And
the bigger ones just haven't either done it or gone public yet.
Correct. And so we are. That has been a really significant change in the last 6 months. And then on the regulatory piece, I think Lucian's exactly right that we're seeing legislators try to erect barricades, but the people that work in this field look at those and we're not, they're not thinking like, oh, we can't do this anymore. They're thinking like, oh, how can we do it slightly differently to comply with this new law? And it's not slowing down activity at all.
Yeah, two things about what Trish said. One, our good friend Chris from Passmore likes to say, capital is like water. It's going to find a way through the cracks. It absolutely is happening here. The other thing is, Trish, being very polite, at least today, said that the legislators are trying to find ways to stop ABS and MSOs. Not precisely accurate. It's the trial lawyers, and in one state, the Chamber of Commerce. So, yes, legislators, but I mean, there clearly is a group with an agenda here. And it is mostly plaintiffs' trial lawyers, one segment of plaintiffs' trial lawyers who want to protect their franchise from another segment of plaintiffs' trial lawyers. And I mean, this, this intra-family conflict is as old as Cain and Abel. I mean, lawyer advertising. That is the story of lawyer advertising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've seen this. Here we are. Yeah, we've seen this play before. The irony, of course, being it is those same people that are calling me and Lucian saying, get me in under the deadline of this bill that I'm passing. I mean, it's the same group of people. So, I was just going to say I stay out of that, but that's a total lie. I'm pretty deeply involved. But it really is at its core a story of protectionism and anti-competitiveness, and not a story of trying to protect the industry.
But it feels like the regulators are hanging on with their fingernails and they're unable to let go. Like to Lucian's point, the Hatfields and McCoys are like, this is still playing out in real time.
Yeah, but the regulators are not in the battle, at least not yet. When you say regulators, you may mean something different. But when I think of it in our world, it is the lawyer regulators, the ARDC in Illinois, or the Board of Professional Responsibility in Tennessee. Those are the California State Bar in California. As yet, those guys have not sort of taken a firm position on all this.
Yep. A little curious around this. So I just had a meeting before this. We were discussing parties at play, and obviously PI is getting all of the notoriety, doing more of the deals, very public. PI has always been a bit more public. They splash their faces on billboards. There are service providers splashing their face on billboards. Is there a thought of might as well pick the fights with regulators now to kind of hash out the concerns, or is there a thought to be more diplomatic or to be more cautious as sell side law firms are exploring this and the buy side strategics and financials thinking through this? Just curious on your guys' thoughts.
I don't think anybody wants to. I mean, one question I get from time to time, I'm sure Trish does too, is when we do this deal, do we want to go to the bar first and get approval? And it's like, no, absolutely do not. No, don't do that. Please don't do that. And if you do that, I'm bailing. No, not quite. But no, I don't think anybody who's doing these deals, once they thought about it, really wants to go get regulatory approval. First of all, it's not available in most.
Yeah, there's not a process to do that in the law.
But the most the most intense version of that I've heard from some firms is they'll collect ethics lawyers like I don't know what, and they'll have 2 or 3 or 4 ethics lawyers on board to all tell them the same thing, which is fine, more work for us, but.
We quite like each other, so that works out okay. So.
Yeah, and nobody wants to pick a fight. Nobody.
Yeah.
Curious, are you guys having more conversations with insurance carriers? So the malpractice insurance, how are those conversations going?
Yeah, we are. Not just malpractice insurance, like RWI insurance, malpractice insurance, those sorts of conversations we're certainly having. That's a product that did not exist. Like RWI insurance for these deals did not exist 12 months ago. And now we're seeing people in the space doing that.
I was talking to a mutual friend of ours who's an insurance broker this last week, and there is clearly no problem with getting malpractice insurance for law firms and MSO deals. You want to hire a broker early enough, and you want to make sure, in my view, what I tell everybody is, yeah, sure, you want LPL insurance, of course, yeah, but you also want to make sure you got full coverage, some smart broker telling you what it looks like for the MSO as well, because I've already seen malpractice claims arise in this arena. Think about it for a minute. If your MSO is if you're a plaintiff's firm and the MSO is in the business of doing client intake, they can drop a case. And I've seen one where a set of cases were simply taken in and then never passed on to the law firm, statutes blown, et cetera. So I don't think there probably are huge gaps in malpractice coverage, but you don't want there to be any. You want to make sure that the MSO is covered, maybe an additional insured. I don't know. Somebody else can talk about that. It's funny, you mentioned insurance, and I actually flashed on something else for a minute, which I was talking with a client about the other day, which is, and I'd be interested in Trish's thoughts about this, how come, while we know, I think both of us have probably clients that are insurance defense law firms that are looking at these deals. Okay, fine. How come insurance companies, liability carriers, have not decided, we want to flip our in-house, set of lawyers that defend insureds, which they can do in most jurisdictions. We want to flip that into a law firm and have an MSO relationship with them and make some. Why aren't the insurance companies, State Farm, Allstate, whoever, doing that?
I think they are, Lucian.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it because they already own law firms. But
Right.
I would, if you're an insurance company, why would you want to own a law firm?
Yeah.
Even if it's good, why bother?
Yeah. We've had a handful of inquiries from insurance companies on that subject. And I suspect we'll get more. It's a very natural next step for
application.
them. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I think we'll see some of that.
I just want to go back to something that Lucian kind of mentioned previously about we haven't seen any big law firms go public yet on anything like these kinds of deals that we talked about. Are we any closer now than we were 6 months ago when we kind of last convened on that?
Yes, no question.
Mm-hmm.
You will see more than one, probably this calendar year, certainly in the next year, and it will not be just one.
And can I ask, do you know if that's buyout related, so majority ownership with rollover equity, or minority deals? What are you guys seeing on that front?
The sense I get is that the bigger firms are probably looking at something that looks more like a minority deal, but I don't know I don't have enough data to know if that's what that is. Anyway, so I don't know, Trish, what you're saying.
I agree. That's absolutely the sense I have, with like maybe one or two exceptions, but like that's the sense that I have. And that makes sense. I mean, one of the reasons it's easy for PI to go first is that you have, one or two or maybe four owners, right? A firm like mine has 600 owners. And so it's just a different, there's different conversations you're having, it's different models you're looking at, different considerations at play. And the irony, of course, is that makes them, from a regulatory perspective, and I think we would agree on this, Lucian, safer.
Yeah.
These are less risky on the bigger end than they are in the other spaces. So that
I think might be part of the answer, by the way, to get buy-in from, and it's, I mean, I don't know Holland tonight, but my firm, I forget how many partners we got, but we got 100 plus. But it's not all the capital partners who really get a vote. I mean, Sure, they get a vote, but they don't really get a vote.
Yeah.
So, but even so, it's 20 or 30 people probably who matter. But it's more. So to get consensus among a bigger group, you take a less aggressive option, right? So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and I think like one trend that I've noticed as we have conversations with big law firms is like the ones that are bullish about it are firms that have weighted voting, right? And to Lucian's point, we don't have to get 400 people, we just have to get these 30. And there are firms that have smaller numbers of equity partners that they have to convince, either because of that weighting issue or because there are just fewer equity partners.
Here's another question, because you guys have been through plenty of reps through this and have done this. I'd love to hear from both of you best practices. So what have you seen that has worked and that hasn't worked?
Yeah, I think the thing that works best is hiring me on one side and Lucian on the other.
There's a consensus point.
I don't know, Lucian, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I will say what does work is alignment. So that's one thing. I must say, if it's really kind of a buyout, a walk-away deal, it really has to seem to be very carefully considered to make sure that the machine will still go, both economically and business-wise. So that's one concern. The other concern, you really have to have, and this is tied to alignment. I want to say this carefully, because an MSO is not supposed to be and should not control the law firm. They can't own the law firm. They shouldn't control all aspects of the law firm's business. Fine. But to the extent they have a total absence of control, that can be a problem. That can be a problem. So there's some fine tuning going on, and people have very different views. Investors, I know, have very different views about how to do that, and sort of how far up on the level you want to tune the level of control you have. But I certainly can see situations where it wasn't tuned up far enough, which is a little surprising, frankly, but there it is.
Yeah, I agree that certainly one really, really important thing is that everybody at the table is doing it as like a partnership that's going to be effective in the long term. And so to Lucian's point on alignment, like, for example, I'm working on a deal right now where we represent the law firm, and I can just tell that they don't really like or trust each other, like the two sides. And I just want to be like, guys, this is not going to work. Like, it's already not going well, and you're not working together yet. And that sort of thing, I don't like to see. I really like to see people who are excited to work together, to partner together in the long term to make both businesses more successful.
Another question along the side of that seems to come up every time is control. What are you guys seeing, and how is that communicated? Because I think it goes back to alignment and less about investors controlling law firms or dictating the practice of law or things like that. What's being structured in the MSO to the law firm? What are some of those capabilities that allow law to be practiced independently without the influence or outsized influence of investors? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, this is both sort of the easiest and the most complicated part of these deals. It's really easy to say at the outset, like at our first meeting, it's extremely easy for me or Lucian to say, we got to leave the practice of law and the lawyers and the control of the clients and the client relationships. We just leave that in the law firm. And the MSO, you can do everything else, right? And everybody's like, yep, got it, good, except, and then it's like, what are the mechanics and the levers in the documents that allow for the law firm to continue to practice in a way that's independent and frankly just like really respects our independence principles and the RPCs, while allowing the MSO not only to do what the MSO has come to the table to do, which is be a true business partner, but have the controls that it would have of any business partner, a creditor or a landlord or anything like that. So it's conceptually very simple, but in the details, it's quite a bit more complicated.
Yeah, I completely agree. But again, I know it's kind of a cliche at this point, maybe, but I come back to alignment. I mean, if you've got a business plan that would start out surely as a law firm business plan, but that is more than a law firm business plan by the time the two parties have worked things out, so that it's a business plan that includes, for example, maybe it's AI, or maybe it's growth generally. But whatever it is, it's more than just a traditional law firm business plan. If everybody is really on board with that. So, for example, it's expansion. You want to build a big consumer law firm across 20 states that covers everything but PI. Okay, well, that has lots of implications over on the MSO side and certainly implications on the law firm side. But if everybody's locked in on that, I think control matters a good bit less. Those levers that Trish is talking about, yeah, they're going to get blessed by somebody like one of the two of us, but they matter less because everybody is on the same page. So I know that, again, that sounds very kind of, I don't know what the word is, shop worn or cliched or whatever, but I think that really is the point. By the way, remember, I should say, you're talking to two ethics lawyers about business advice. So if you're a law firm looking to us for advice on those questions, you probably need a new business plan.
Yeah.
No offense, Trish, but
yeah, no, none taken. I mean, that's why we have business lawyers surrounding us. I mean, we work. This is a feature of these is that we work extraordinarily closely with the business lawyers who are structuring the deal. This is not the sort of thing where the business lawyers do their things and Lucian and I drop in on the last day and bless it before, we are at the table every step of the way. And so it kind of sounds to me like in some ways we're not really answering your question about like where that is. But I think what we're saying and what we agree on is it's like, it's pretty complicated. It changes on a deal by deal basis, and it's extraordinarily fluid throughout because, you know, an MSO might want to have one right here and one right over here in this other document, and you're then looking at those together and you're saying, like, what is the effect of these two things together? So it's keeping us busy.
I can imagine. I know that there's a consistent thought of alignment. You guys use that as advice. What other things that maybe either capital partners aren't doing or law firm partners aren't doing, or you've seen that's been really helpful to see success, or red flags? Like, again, looking for advice around how people could execute better or walk through the process. Is it about taking their time more versus rushing? Is it about having more honest meetings or a facilitator involved, making sure there is alignment? I'd be welcome to hear some of the things you guys have seen.
Yeah. One thing that one view I've changed in the last year is the value of a very good investment banker. In the beginning, I thought they were snake oil salesmen. I was like, oh, why? But the truth is, I was a litigator. Like, in my practice, I am a litigator. I don't deal with investment bankers. I hadn't really been exposed very much to that side of the business. And I have really come around on a few of them that I think are really good that we work with, as being extremely good translators for lawyers who are not very good business people, which is most lawyers, right? And even lawyers who have very sophisticated PI firms, aren't thinking about their businesses in the way that an investor thinks about a business, and having a translator in the middle to speak that language across those two boundaries. That's something that I've really really come to see the value in the last 12 months.
Yeah, I certainly agree. I mean, I will say had this experience in litigation funding as well, where there are a couple of people one in particular I work with who's a really good broker, and what they do is what investment bankers do. They evaluate the transaction. They evaluate deeply the transaction in terms of the financials as well as the business points. They then, if it'll go, and sometimes they say it won't go, which is that's really, really good advice. But if it'll go, they help package it. They help shape it as well. Sometimes they advise the firm to stop doing some things or do other things or change their expectations about a deal. And then they work, after all that, they work as Trish says, the translator. And I do think there's immense value in that. I think it's not just about expectations. The better ones that I've seen, it's about the substance of the deal.
And Trish, just going back to the business lawyer issue again. Just curious in terms of, has there been increased market chatter, specifically at the big end of law firms, about what firms will actually do with the money if one of these deals crosses the line? Now that the technology is a very disruptive topic inside these large law firms about building their own or paying subscription fees, but the landscape is definitely changing quickly. Are you any closer to hearing about what people would actually do with the funds?
I think people's thoughts on that haven't changed a lot in the last year. They're looking at, I think, deploying it in the same categories of thoughts that we've been talking about, which, things like, obviously, setting aside talent, which is the number one thing by far, I think. Expansion in other geographies, other markets, scopes of business, AI, technology, those sorts of things. And then things like, some liquidity events, perhaps, and also retiring pension obligations, things like that. But really, I think the market is coalescing around the idea that they would use it for talent primarily.
So just a quick follow-up question on that particular issue on talent. Do you think that there is truly first mover advantage by the first firm that crosses the finish line on this, by going after talent and hoovering up talent in a profound way? Would they really have, a real competitive advantage in the marketplace to doing that, or is that just maybe not the case?
I mean, the thing about Big Law is that they have access to a lot of capital. They could do this in other ways. So they have to make the decision, yes, we want more capital. Yes, we want to do it this way. And I think Lucian and I would both tell you, if the answer to both of those questions is yes, great. If not, also great. But if the answer to both of those questions is yes, then also it makes sense to have a plan of what you want to do with it. It doesn't make sense to do this if you're just going to take the money in and put it in your savings account and save it for a rainy day, in my view.
Yeah, completely agree. And I do think, let me put it this way. I don't know the answer to your question, but I've heard two different thoughts expressed. One is, yes, there's absolutely a first mover advantage. The second one is, I've heard from maybe not half a dozen, but more than 3 big law firms that they absolutely do not want to be the first to do this. They want to be the second. And, that's a Rorschach test for, how big law thinks, isn't it? But I have heard, as recently as 2 weeks ago, I was in basically a small conference amongst a lot of big law leaders and GCs and such. And one person you would know, I think we were under Chatham House rules, so I shouldn't mention the name, but said, and this is somebody from an AmLaw 50 firm, managing partner type, said, yeah, our plan, what's going to happen is the folks in the AmLaw 50 are going to go get pots of money, and they're going to then put together shopping lists of people and practice groups through the AmLaw 200 and go scarf them all up. And his theory is there's going to be greater stratification. There's going to be the AmLaw 50, the rich get richer, and a hollowing out somewhere in the AmLaw 200 because of this. I've heard that theory more than once. That doesn't depend on outside capital, as Trish points out, but you have to think that outside capital may accelerate that. You got to figure that that's what happened.
30-second, 60-second response to this question from either or both of you. How do you see AI affecting your business right now and kind of posturing for the future? Because it seems like that's rapidly changing fast. And so is the thesis changing when the parties are coming together talking about this? What are your guys' thoughts?
Yes, AI is changing everything about the way we practice law right now, and so it's impacting this as well. I think for me, at least, maybe the most significant aspect of that is just seeing how quickly these native AI law firms are trying to enter the space. And I think that's going to put a lot of pressure on, the traditional law firm. Instead of having, a traditional law firm who every month is here's our new AI program, go to training, learn it. Okay, we're going to sunset that one. Here's another one, learn that one. And you're telling these busy lawyers, AI is the thing you have to figure out how to do in your spare time and fold into your practice, some of which are better than that than others. You're getting AI companies that are just all right, we're just going to stand up our own law firm, easy peasy. And that is really, I can disclose, Norm AI is a client of ours, of our group, right? And Norm AI's goal is to be an AmLaw 50 firm. So, that's where they're going. And so that kind of model is really, I think, going to impact the way that the next few years of the legal industry develops.
Yeah, and I'm not saying this is Trish's view, but I'm skeptical of anybody that thinks they can predict what AI is going to do to the legal market. I think it's going to have different effects. There are different firms that are taking different approaches, and some are going to work and some are not going to work. And you're going to have some big law firms that might get smaller but hugely more profitable. Who knows? I just don't think it's totally predictable. I will say one other thing that in that same meeting I was in, somebody made the point, and it's made me more skeptical about the premise that you need to go get, if you're a big law or whoever, a pot of money to invest in AI, and that is that isn't the rule on tech that it gets commoditized? I mean, I'd be fascinated to hear what Kirkland & Ellis is going to do with $500 million on AI. I think that it could be terribly exciting. On the other hand, if you're a 5-lawyer immigration firm that signs up for really good use and development of AI, hell, you might make more money per partner than Kirkland & Ellis. So I don't know. And I think the premise that really, and I've been steering away from saying this as much in public anymore, that the premise of an MSO deal is law firm has a business plan, law firm needs capital, it needs capital for tech, recruiting, retention. Tech is dropping down on that list for me because I think that maybe we're going to be in the space of a few years in a place where, tech is going to, the AI rather specifically is going to be more like, in terms of an expense and development item, buying new laptops for everybody every year or whatever it is. I don't know, but I'm skeptical of anybody who is predicting specific dramatic changes.
Thank you both so much for your precious time to jump on this show with Howard and I. There's so many more topics we could discuss. We could go on for hours. It's a lot of fun to have you both on here. But we'll bring this to a close and bring you back. How does that sound?
Great.
Thank you so much for having us.
I'm up for being with you guys and with Trish anytime.
Absolutely.
Excellent.